Hello, hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Sweet. How's everybody's weekend?
Weird.
Weird? Yeah, what happened?
I don't know. Just I guess I've been pretty strong, but I've kind of allowed the negativity get to me a little bit. But it's just one of those things. It's fine.
Yeah, on Sunday I was done. I needed to check out for a little while.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just gonna get the pledge up. See if there's anybody else coming into the waiting room. Let me open up the chat. Move this over there. Uh-oh. Don't know where my earpods went. Well, okay then. Give a couple more minutes for anybody else showing up. All right, we've got Allison, Angelina, Brad, David, Laura, Michael, Natasha, and Daniel. Welcome back, everyone. I am happy to see you here. Let's go ahead and start then, shall we? Welcome to the Fireside Chat. I don't know what number Fireside Chat it is, but this is Monday, March 5th, 2021. And I'll say the pledge, and then we'll go ahead and give any updates and have a discussion. I pledge my mind to the respectful recognition of the sovereign liberty essential to human dignity. I pledge my hands to the creation and maintenance of communal, cultural, and ecological prosperity. I pledge my eyes to watch over the integrity of truth and justice with the acceptance of the natural balance of diversity and equality. I pledge my heart to the connection that binds all of us throughout creation. And I pledge my whole being with humility and love to the grateful service of all sentient beings and human consciousness. And I will duly act in accordance to the principles derived from such wisdom. Welcome back. In terms of updates, there are a number of meetings that are happening this week in regards to PHIRE and our funding. This, I suspect, will be a very big week for us. And like I said in last week's chat, we were sort of in this holding pattern where a couple things need to take place. All of the dominoes are all lined up, right? We have a great team with a sales funnel and clients already for the PHIRE on phone. And all of the pieces are in line there with the manufacturing and the chipset into the right phones. We are looking into bringing manufacturing here to the States after our first run. We have a number of people who are all like literally looking for the solution that we're providing. And so we can make a great case to our investors and say, look, there's this amount of revenue, this amount of interest, and these are the large groups that are going to be joining the app once it's in its decentralized progressive web app form. And I had a call with one of our developers overseas who's been working on a very, very integral component to this, which is the Decentralized Blockchain Web, which is one of the cruxes of this whole thing. To be able to have a functional social media apparatus that allows people to speak freely, it needs to be operationally secure. And what that means is that no Amazon or Google Play Store or Apple can, remove it from the web, right? Or their stores. And so we were going back and forth, like, how do we accomplish that in the most efficient, secure, and affordable way? And that was when, one of my associates had reminded me of their web app, which is essentially it's what people are calling Web 3.0. There's been some movements into that, like we've got Unstoppable Domains, which is a company that sells web domains that are hosted on blockchain servers. So meaning they're not in any central location, and they can't, it's literally unstoppable domains. And there's a number of these efforts around the world to build this third layer of the internet. You know, you've got the dark web, you've got web 1.0 essentially, which was like, computers speaking directly to each other, then a whole DNS system that allowed people to find each other, and now another added layer onto that, which is blockchain hosted servers essentially, or blockchain hosted web, World Wide Webs, where people can post their data, and then everybody who's on that system hosts a piece of it or mirrors it and becomes nodes and kind of like mirrors the whole thing. Now, all of those are technically very, somebody's unmuted. Technically, all of those are in their infancy stage very vulnerable, because you might only have like 4 or 5 nodes, maybe 12, maybe 15, but that's still not enough to actually provide durability and anti-fragile structure. So one of the discussions that we've been having is, how do we get that distributed as fast as possible to as many people as possible? And I spoke with 2 of our associates, and they each have networks of 100 million people. So we can do that relatively quickly and scale up really quickly. But what we're going to do first, those of you here and those of you who are on the app currently, which has been updated, by the way, yippee, there's some bug fixes and everything's moving a lot smoother. Some of the basic functionality that I'd like to see changed will, but it's like a slow going process. You know, it's not a multi-billion-dollar app like Telegram or Facebook or any of these companies that are super duper optimized with huge coding teams. We're still very, very small, and we're still getting our baby steps, you know, still crawling essentially. What I'd like to see happen is, in the next 3 to 5 months, have the completely decentralized version up and running with a whole new look and feel, with a whole new user experience that's much smoother, that mirrors a little bit what like MetaMask and Trust Wallet and all of these companies are doing, especially with like the Web 3.0 look and feel. It's very much like big buttons and kind of simple to navigate, without a lot of there's a lot of less stuff on the screen, and the stuff that is on the screen is more pertinent, which I find to be, from a developer standpoint and a user experience standpoint, much better, right? Because like TikTok, it's like you just have a couple things that you can do, and then, you know, once you open up one behavior, then there's a lot of choices, like a link tree or a behavior tree or whatever. So that's kind of where we are with that. Again, the meetings this week are pretty heavy, and everybody in the team is super excited about them. The stuff that we're putting together in terms of the raise, what I did is I sort of separated the overall, like, hey, just invest in FIRE on Global Partners. We're going to do this thing with the phone and this building stuff. And a lot of the people that we've spoken to are like, that's too much. Like, we're into this one thing or this one thing. So can you, you know, divide up the raise essentially? So I've done that a little bit, and I've put the contracts together and the raise decks for just the phone, right? This week we'll be doing that just about the building materials, and each one, like, which is crazy to me, because, you know, why just take one piece and invest in that? And I get it, it's like simpler, right? It's less moving parts, can go less wrong, and each of those pieces have like huge returns immediately. Like we're talking, you know, billions of dollars. So I get it. So I'm, you know, whatever way works the quickest and most efficiently for our investors, where they feel the most comfortable. And we can always leverage the equity or leverage the company and its revenues back into FIRE on Global Partners and get this unrolled. So that's where we are with that. In terms of the building materials, I'm going to see the guys this week, and they have made more progress and can give us sort of like a rundown of how fast the manufacturing can be turned around, what we need to get that off the ground. And we already have markets, just like the phone, we already have markets of buyers ready for it, because, you know, if it's 4 inches and is a structural wall, that's one thing. You know, there's a little bit more legwork there to make sure that it's acceptable by all the building codes, blah, blah, which we have the track record and data for. But just to put it up as insulational material inside, instead of drywall, you know, put up this graphene basalt wall, and you still have the same insulative quality. So you know, that's a huge market too already, with the market primed in Europe and places like Ireland and stuff. So those are the updates specifically for, you know, FHIRE on Global Partners. In the app, I kind of told you a little bit about the Decentralized Web 3.0 and how vital it is for a lot of like the truth movement, right? Or people who want a decent and good free speech, a zone of free speech. Like, if it's protected and is not fuckwithable, then we have that, right? And so it's not just some of the biggest names that we know that are looking for it. It's pretty much anybody who is devoted to goodness, balance, health, you know, and all of the common sense that seems to be so uncommon at this time. But the fact is, this is diverging a little bit from FHIRE, is that everybody, there's more of us than there are of the Muppet cows, right? People who just sort of blindly accept whatever the media tells them. There's a lot more people thinking for themselves. They might not have the full picture, but they still trust their intuition. They trust the truth when they hear it from different people. And those are the people that we're looking for, because I think we can build the momentum and get everybody sort of on the same page, like an entrainment of clocks, right? If we get everybody having their hearts beat at the same time, or they're breathing at the same time, sort of all going in the same direction, we build up this momentum. And I've kind of artificially withheld that because we don't want to get all of these people and be like, well, what do we do now? You know, it's like we want to have the solution built and ready and then get everybody. And Baseline has been really good in finding you all and us being all able to connect. And I might have mentioned this last week. I'm not sure. I've had a lot of phone calls. So, but I've been approached by some pretty amazing people in the industry who see me as an influencer and want to help develop me as an artist or whatever. And the talk that we've been having behind the scenes is that if we can create a cultural movement, kind of like that wild viral video where that one dude's just dancing all weird at the festival, and then like everybody's like laughing or whatever, and then, you know, a couple people dance with him, and then the next thing you know, it just spirals and everybody's dancing. That's kind of been the mission here. And you know, getting us together and kind of all vibing and kind of moving in the same direction, looking at the same future and saying, this is what we are going to build. However it comes about, I've been trusting in that process. So that's the updates for today and this week. Would anybody like to ask anything? Not just specifically to the things I've discussed, but FHIRE on in general. We had like a couple hundred people join the FHIRE on chat last week, based on a TikTok video I did that mentioned the FHIRE on chat, and everybody jumped in. A lot of cool new faces there. Taking some time to like look at everybody. Have had some really cool discussions about dead man switches. There's a lot of information that I hold that I want to put in a safe place and make sure that nothing bad happens to me. And if something does, then that information gets out to everybody. Having to do with like my journey and some of the things that have had to undergo. So yeah, let's open it up. I see some new faces now in here. Friendly Ninja. We've got Ethan. Is that Ethan? Ethan? Ethan is.
Yeah. What's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Very well. I'll be coming up to NC latter half of this month.
Oh, sweet. All right. I think Jonah's up here this weekend, so I might see him, see what's going on.
Was it you that told me that they saw him, or was it Dylan? Saw him randomly in a parking lot at like a tea house or something.
Oh, that's probably that might be Dylan.
Okay.
I haven't been in Asheville yet.
Okay. Yeah. No, I've got to come up to the property and kind of see what needs to be fixed and break some ground there. So I'm going to be spending a couple days. I'm going to let you know as well.
All right. I'd like to go out there and see what's going on with the grading work and stuff. See if we can do a quote for you. And
yes,
we can actually do road work too if you need.
Yep, definitely do. There's a lot to do there. We actually have some plumbing issues, and we need to relay some pipe and you know, kind of rethink the whole water systems there. And I'm
I got you on irrigation.
Yeah. I'm like right now the way it's working is that there's 3 wells on the property and a spring. And the lower part of the property, there's a huge well, and it pumps all the way up with a solar panel and a solar pump. And at the top of the property, property is very much graded, like it goes on a very steep incline, and there's parts that are kind of dug in. So it goes up to a cistern, and if there's like a leak anywhere in the thing, it drains the cistern in a day, evidently, and it's been really a problem. So we've got to kind of fix that whole thing, and I want to figure in, rain catchment and all of these other new wonderful systems, like those bamboo things that collect water. Like I want to put in all the cool technologies that exist and implement them,
That's good, man.
So definitely I'll hit you up when I'm headed up there.
All right, groovy.
Awesome. So I want to give Friendly Ninja an opportunity to say hello, introduce themselves, and tell us where you're from and what your superpower is. I don't want to assume your gender, but Mr. Friendly Ninja, could you please say hello? Look at Friendly Ninja. Can you hear us, Friendly Ninja? I am taking you at your namesake and assuming that you are a Friendly Ninja, in fact. I don't know if they can hear us. Anybody else want to say hello? Ask any questions?
Hi.
Hey, hi, Allison.
It's good to be here. At least now I like Monday morning a lot. Did I hear you say that you had the well was at the bottom of the hill, and so you're pumping it to the top of the hill for reservation?
Yeah, so the water is at the bottom of the hill, one of the wells, the primary well, and it pumps up about 300 yards with a solar pump up to a really big cistern, so that if the power ever goes out, you still have gravity that will allow you to get water.
Yeah, great, cool. And you're using solar to get it up there? Correct.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna revamp the whole system and put in a better pump, and we've had the cistern empty on us when we first moved in because there was a leak down, it went back down the hill to irrigate one of the gardens, and there was a leak in that line. We found it and just turned it off because it would drain the cistern in a day, and we had to figure out how to do gravity siphoning off of that to fill it up with water again. It was a mess, but yeah, I've definitely learned over the years some things that need to be a little bit more anti-fragile, right?
Yeah, we face that a lot here in California, obviously, and they shut off power a lot now. They're going to be doing it a lot more. And one of the things that came about was everyone's got their water, but no one had a way to use it in a fire situation, in an emergency situation. So what they started to really realize was gas-powered water pumping was the way to go. Because even if you had that solar and you didn't have power. So just something to consider, like making sure you can move your water, because that's a bummer when you find out your tank is empty.
Yeah, no, it's no fun. And there is a well underneath the kitchen at the top of the hill, but it doesn't have a whole lot of water in it, evidently. So they had our previous owners had to drill another well, and then another well on the other side of the property. So we have a bunch of wells and a spring that over the time had been covered up, and we started uncovering that. So, and then there's like a big lake at the bottom of the hill, at the bottom of the property. So we have an abundance of water. It just needs to be like partitioned properly, right? And captured properly.
What do you get? How many gallons do you get out of a minute? Do you know?
Not off the top of my head. I don't.
I'm wondering how free flowing that is. I just ran into someone this weekend. My friend Ava was telling me they're getting like 30 gallons a minute.
Yeah.
It's flowing. And then I've been on properties that are like, oh, you get a quart a minute.
Yeah. The way it works again is the solar pump at the bottom of the hill pumps into the well, and then when the well fills up, it stops pumping, right? And then our use drains the cistern a little bit, and then it pumps back and starts filling it up again. So it's like there's always a reservoir, and if worst came to worst, like we would be able to just stick a hose in there, and then because it's downhill, we'd be able to get gravity siphoning, if we needed to.
Beautiful. Yay.
Ethan saying ram pumps are also great electricity-free option for uphill irrigation. This is true. In fact, we had looked at doing that at one point we had put a generator down by the lake and used that to pump water out of the lake onto the fields. You'll see when you're there. Maybe we'll do an exploratory discovery mission there, Ethan, you and Dylan and myself and maybe some others, and then figure out what we need to do and then set about doing that and then kind of get everything else rolling, get the renderings of the houses and everything together and start building it, So it looks like our friendly ninja disappeared. Let me ask you all a question. This has less to do with Fire On and just more where you're at and what you see going on. Do any of you have a positive vision on how this all rolls out? A creative solution and or like realistic timelines of what could be going on and how we could find ourselves out of this like shitty situation?
I'll speak.
Yes, please.
So even though I'm having a hard couple of days, it's just one of those things where your mood is down. I do overall have a very, very positive outlook. So 2020 to 2024, things are going to be falling and rebuilding, and I do strongly believe that the good will win or has already won. Like I've said before, it's just the 3D world, the physical world has catching up to do with what's energetically going on. We have hit the critical mass, and we are influencing. People like ourselves are influencing the rest of the world. It's gonna take some time. So I would say like 2024. Things should be a lot brighter. I know it's a long ways away, but even sooner, really. It's just this year is going to be a mess. I don't know what next year is going to look like, but I have a very, very good outlook for next year. We'll see.
What do you think? So, there's a lot of weird shit happening, right? And you listen to somebody like Alex Jones and you say, oh, these are evil elites, the predator class, they're trying to enslave humanity and all of these things. Like, do you actually believe that that's the case?
That there's evil elites and they're trying to enslave us? Yeah, they've been doing it, thousands and thousands, and beyond that, they've been, as you say, harvesting us. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. But to what ends? Like, why? I have my ideas, but I'm not set on them. Like I have like a sort of working theory, right? But I'd love to hear God's for all of you all as well, if you have ideas.
So a book that I've read over a decade ago that I read it, I thought it was very interesting, but I kind of, after a while, I kind of put it down, like the thoughts, I put it down. But then after, the last few years I've been or especially 2020, I realized how true that book was. It was a channel book. Mm-hmm. So part of the info that was in there was that they are harvesting our negative energy. So basically our negative, Our
loosh.
Yeah, like our negative emotions. They feed on negative emotions. They are not, these elites. They're it's not a human. They're not human. They are from whatever class of aliens or dimension or whatever. Their source of food is negative emotion, and this is why everything's ramped up the way it is. Everything is steered to produce negative emotions in people. Mm-hmm. It's not just the enslaving part. It's they feed off these emotions.
I can see how that is construed by everything that's going on. Like I can totally get why people believe that. There's enough anecdotal evidence that sort of like says that makes sense, right? But for me, there's like a deeper layer to it. And I think that this deeper layer is like crucial to our development. And that is that everything is charged. Everything is charge based, right? Like a magnet, right? And that's why when we do the meditation, it's so much about the negative and positive polarities of the human condition. The negative draws in, the positive exudes.
Right.
And like everything seems to be this ebb and flow, and like there's love and then hate or fear, right? And
Polarity.
yeah, and it's almost like if all of this, the planets, the sun spiraling through space, were a magnet in a coil, right? And we're building up charge, and it's sort of like an AC or DC current, where it's just, you've got the negative and the positive, and the, like when lightning strikes, you've got the negativity of the earth, the grounding, and then the positive discharge. And then sometimes they meet. If you've seen certain kind of lightnings, it actually, you can see the lightning coming out of the ground before the lightning that's coming down actually hits it.
Interesting. I never knew this.
Yeah, and there's some lightning that goes from the ground up. In fact, I think the majority of it does. I'm not sure about that, but by Ethan, he's just said he's headed to work. And so in that, I'm using that lightning analogy as saying, here we are hurtling through space, creating a charge, spin in and amongst the galactic charge, right? And what we call evil is not anything different than just the ebb of the tide instead of the flow, right? And because I have a hard time with like good and evil, and it seems like that
It's all part of the whole
duality. Yeah.
You know, if we didn't have the evil, even though I disapprove of evil myself as a person, as a human, if we didn't have the evil, we wouldn't have the contrast to exist on this plane, on the 3D reality. You need polarity on the 3D reality. It's just fact. And how else would we grow, right? On this 3D plane, how would we grow if we didn't have the negative?
Yeah. Yep.
And also when you consider the hermetic principles, you know, you just need the polarity for existence to be.
Yeah. It's like if darkness wins or light wins totally, then it's still unbalanced, right? There needs to be that dance.
There wouldn't be physical reality.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Yeah. We've got a couple hands up. Daniel, you want to add into this or answer?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
And then Angelina afterwards.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Okay, because I'm using my tablet this time, not my phone. So.
Okay.
But yeah, more what she said too. Like I've seen some things. I kind of coincide, I guess, with what she said. I myself, when I was growing up, you know, I did stupid ass shit. And I grew up, and like now I'm like always wondering back, like, why the hell did I do that stuff? But if it wasn't for that stuff, we wouldn't be where we're at now.
Yeah.
Now, as far as like empaths and stuff like that, I've always noticed, I don't want to say for everybody, but it seemed like it. Like we always had at least one time in our life that oh shit moment where we either could have ended it or something terrible could have happened, and somehow we're this whole another person.
Yeah.
A fucking loop. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. Oh, I thought she was gonna say something. But with everything going on now, like with all the crazy shit that I'm like seeing in the newscasts and stuff, it's for me, that's this side of me that I'm not really like caring about. Like I'll listen to the stories, but my brain, like when I was a paranormal person, like doing people's houses and stuff like that, they could tell you the story, but you're listening to the story. You're trying to figure out if they're bullshitting you, if they're just making shit up just to make you come. So like that's what I get from the story. So it's like, even though the person could be like, you know, oh, this is going on, this is why this is going on. I'm like, yeah, but like, what is there to gain from this? So I'm listening to literally everything that comes about. So even though I think I shared a thing in the chat today from like a Fox News thing where the guy was saying about like Biden lied about all this stuff. And from Fox News, I was kind of shocked to hear that. But at the same time, it's like people are starting to wake up. So this whole side of all the masks and mandates, the stupid passports they want. Seemed like that whole dark side of me that I left, and now we're like heading to this. So like all the FIRE stuff, all the stuff we're
Yeah, it's
heading to,
wild, right?
like, totally sideways. So it's like I'm over here worrying about this. I'm not giving two shits about everything over here, and that's kind of what I did with my life. So I feel like
Yeah.
that too coincided with like, because I don't remember if you said it or she said it about God, where you know, we're all gods and all this and that. But I feel like we are actually God trying to figure out himself or itself or whatever you want to call it. So
Yes.
it's not that he totally understands everything that's going on. Like a universal thing created all this stuff that we're seeing, that we're talking to, and the Wi-Fi signal that we can't see, all that stuff. But it's God trying to figure out that for himself too. So like we are his eyes.
Yeah, I resonate with that very much. I had dreams about it when I was a kid. I feel like we are, like I said in baseline today, like we are all facets on the same gem, and that we're God playing all the parts, looking at each other. And the more, it's almost like the more we figure out that we are that, then the game's over, right? But that to the opposite polarity, the more that self tries to enslave self, that doesn't work either. And so it's like this highly charged thing that's happening, and you can see it in the sun, the way it's acting, and in the way that the Earth's magnetic field is moving. Like all of this stuff is interrelated from my perspective, at least. And I do believe that after all is said and done, we'll all be like sitting having a beer in heaven or whatever that looks like, you know, and laughing about it in the same way that we talk about Atlantis or other civilizations, and like, oh, wasn't that fun when, or you know, having mysteries about it. It's almost like it's a gift to be able to not know everything, you know?
Well, because I see Tom wants to talk, so this will be the last thing.
Okay.
One of the biggest things I've noticed too, even with myself, and I'm sure other people, is like fear is almost non-existent now. Like
Same.
it's like I'm not scared to do anything now.
I saw a TikTok somewhere, and somebody said, do you notice that since 2020, when the whole thing started with the virus, it's like everybody's being split into their path. Like there are people who are still fear-based, and their lives are becoming more chaotic and less bountiful and all of this. And then people who are like of God or of light or whatever, or positive, like their lives are growing. And I very much see that happening. So thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Natasha. Tom, you had something you wanted to add?
Okay, I have a quick story of the past when you were talking about the elites and if there's bad guys and what they're doing and why they're doing. I spent 9 weeks taking a health course, and my best female friend that came out of that course, the whole time she had just said her dad's a baker. So I imagine him wearing a white hat and with a rolling pin.
Right.
We graduate that weekend. Her and I have fun. She says, "Hey, my parents are at a conference in Miami. Do you want to spend the night at the hotel and hang out with them?" I say, "Yeah, sure." I wake up, beautiful hotel, and it was a Bakers Association conference. Her dad wasn't a banker. They were billionaires, and they owned the largest bakery on the East Coast. They did 80% of the buns for McDonald's.
Wow.
When I toured the bakery, it was 2 city blocks in downtown Baltimore, and they owned 1/4 of Baltimore. But the point of this is that they're at this baking conference, and there's the 10 largest bakeries in the United States are represented. So it's kind of like this elite where it just totally opened my eyes, where you would think these 10 people are in competition and that they're out to get each other. But at least once a year, they sit at a table of which I have been invited to watch them make sure they're in cahoots with manipulating the prices on wheat and the prices on gluten, and to manipulate the commodities, and to make sure that those 10 bakers next year are also the 10 richest bakers in the world. And they're the nicest people.
Right.
So what came from that is then I was introduced that I came from a health institute, and I have the largest bakers in the world asking me, what is gluten? Why is gluten vilified? Where they have no idea, explaining, oh, the wheat used to be combined with the germ, you'd mill the whole thing, now you're isolating it. And they're like, yeah, we buy 50-pound bags of gluten, who knows what else comes in there.
Right.
So that kind of like set the scene. And just around found it out, which is another part of people like, oh, it affect them. We had a family barbecue a couple weeks later, and we invited all of their friends, and he plays on a baseball team. So it was like a baseball team barbecue. And the family provided McDonald's actual hamburgers and McDonald's buns that came down the assembly line that day that a employee had brought over.
Huh.
And we served it to all the people at the barbecue. But the 6 of us that I would consider, from the family, the baking family, none of us ate any of the gluten bread or any of the meat at the barbecue in which we hosted and served to everybody. We only ate the salads and the superfoods, which has kind of always been this, if they do it, they have to participate in it. They don't know what it's like. No, they knew, the outcomes of the hamburgers and the buns, and they didn't participate, even though that's how they made their billions of dollars.
Yeah, but they're nice people, right? Like you go hang out with them and they, love their families and do all of the things that everybody else does. There's just some, and it's just business at some point, right? Like we just cook and make these things, and this is the most cost efficient and cheapest way to do it. And we make the most ROI on each bun and all of this stuff. And it's just numbers. But did you find that there was a disconnect there between it, or they were fully like, we know it's unhealthy, but this is how we make our millions?
The connection was coming not from the people that grew up in the industry, but some of the siblings had married people that were health orientated.
Right.
I was brought in with a whole different perspective, and the guy who spent his whole life in the bread industry was almost forced to look at it from another perspective, which is kind of, at first it's, oh, you're brilliant, this is entertaining, this is fascinating, and then all of a sudden, wham, bam, now you're a threat. You need to go.
Oh, wow.
Like
Right.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah. It would cost too much for them to change. It would cost too much. And then so the change doesn't happen because it would cost too much. Right.
Yeah.
And like that comes down to an individual level though, too. Right. So you want to be healthy and you want to have a, low body fat, healthy body, all of this, but it costs you attention, time, and will force where you have to actually change your diet, think about things that were just sort of on autopilot for so long, but those autopilots are leading you down the wrong path. And it costs too much energy, time, and attention where you could just be dreaming again to actually make the change. But in this way, it's actual dollars, right? So it's things like that and analogies like that that I really love, because how are we going to incentivize humans to make changes in their behaviors? How are we going to provide them with a roadmap that they can follow that's easy to follow, where they're actually getting paid for the change or the incentivized behavior, like meditating, like being healthy, like eating well, and that's why the whole idea of a corporate structure and social merit system came about. It's like, well, if you're all part of the company, we want you to be in the best physical fucking condition that you can be. So here's like your corporate advancement path, right? So that's some really great insight. Is there anything you want to add to that, Tom?
I'll add to what you just said. I've seen, in certain death not be incentive enough for somebody to change. And even just last week when I was in Denver, my cousin told me our next door neighbor was in the hospital, like on a deathbed, and that he was diagnosed, and I'm doing this in air quotes, with COVID. And after they talked about it, and she said, oh, they have to take care of the kids while they go through this. I said, do you want to know, what you can do for him? And she started with a yes. And I told her when I went through, in my own opinion, that COVID is more of a trigger for other hidden viral and hidden issues. And when I just asked, she's like, oh yeah, he has viral pneumonia all the time. I'm just like, well, that's what he's dealing with. Let me give you the cure for that. And the cat's claw, the licorice root, the lemon balm. When I was doing these are things you can do. Great. When I said, these are the things that feed the virus and you have to eliminate those, and I hit those little fuzzy foods that she eats and loves, she completely ended the conversation and no longer wanted to save his life because she didn't want to give up the eggs, the dairy, and the sugar.
Wow.
Completely ended the conversation, never asked me again. It went from, can you show me that, write that down, to I don't want to know any of that, because she had just, and she told me, well, they just been, chicken just got a cow. And I said, if they was perfectly healthy, fine, but they're not.
Yeah.
And within 4 days, her daughter was diagnosed with a viral situation that was eating through her jaw.
Yeah.
So they don't want to know. They just want the doctors to say, oh, this is genetic, this is autoimmune, this is, not your fault.
Yeah. I think that goes to like the core thing of accountability and taking responsibility for oneself and one's own health and one's own education. And it's a lot. It was amazing to me during COVID where I put out this meme, where it's like one lion's in a cage, one lion's free. It was like this text about, which one are you going to be? And like, I knew people that were like, I'll take the cage, like, I don't want to, I've got kids, I got things to think about. Like, I don't want to take responsibility for everything. And it really struck me. I was like, wow, there are actually people who do. And we're indoctrinated from such early ages to conform and proxy our responsibility to somebody else. And it's kind of disturbing how much that is the reality of things. But it's really heartening to see all of these young fitness people be like, all you have to do is control your eating. People that are doing fasts, people that are, like, I learned at very early age, like, you are what you eat. And if you can control what you intake, then you can control everything. And Wim Hof took it a step further and was like, if you can control your breath, you can control everything, and demonstrated it. I mean, he was injected with E. coli that would kill a person, and he just through his breathing, like, disintegrated it in his body, that like we can do incredible things, but we're not taught that. And for a specific reason, because when you're free and understand your role as a creator, nobody can constrain you, So let's see. Thanks, Tom.
May I give you one more example?
Please.
Can I give you one more under a minute on the conformed and caged?
Mm-hmm.
I'm at a 9-year-old's birthday party last weekend in Denver, and I'm sitting with a whole table of the conformed and caged moms who, are making $100K to just keep their mouth shut. And the one lady is telling my cousin that she went on a Zoom and the wholesale buyer on the other end of the Zoom showed up with no makeup, her hair wasn't done, and she was wearing a sweatshirt. And this lady says to my cousin, I looked at her and I said, if I have to get up in the morning and put on a business suit and put on my makeup to be on Zoom, so do you. She said, I turned off the call. I got on the phone. I called her boss, told her what she had done, and said, this won't resume until she's in full makeup. And I had to get up and go to the bathroom. That the corporate, brainwashing is that you can't do business unless you're completely in full makeup, wearing a business suit over a Zoom call, because if she had to do it, this lady had to do it, and she needed to set a precedent that makeup was required to do business.
All right, Karen.
All right, and I will pass my time.
Thanks, Tom. That's some great insights. Appreciate it. Now we have Angelina. You wanted to add something to the conversation.
Hi, sorry, I was having a hard time unmuting. Yeah, I am pretty much more practical, and I'm very much like solution. Like, I hate having a problem presented without like solutions. I don't like people to just say, oh, well, this is a problem, these people are evil, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I know that it's a problem, but it's like, well, what do we do about it? And that's the way I've always been. And I think some of the solutions, because I wanted to just kind of focus on solutions here,
yes, please.
Is, one of the problems is our airline and transportation are driven by public and federal regulations, state and federal. So I think that we need to figure out a way to make transportation more privatized and get away from having that federal oversight on it, or, find a way to utilize private airports, private airlines, and find a way to like have some people that like have a good amount of money and can invest in maybe a couple different planes and some airspace and figure out how to make that work. I know that's really complicated, but I think in order to truly get out of this whole thing is you have to go around the system. You can't just like go on an airplane with a mask and like that's okay. You have to like you have to find a way around it. You can't just keep complying and saying, well, I get to travel because I can wear a mask. No, that's not okay, because now you're telling them that it's okay to restrict you and tell you what you can and can't do, and how you're allowed into the airport, and how, and it's been happening with the TSA for, years and years, and, they've been slowly infringing. And so, we've got to find a way to get around that travel aspect, because once you figure that out, you're pretty much able to do anything you want. If you can fly, if you can get private pilots to charter planes that, a bunch of people want to pitch in on a private flight, and you all want to go to these places, we can do that without having to comply with their rules. So I really think that that's going to be one of the biggest ways to kind of overcome what's happening, because I feel like so many people are just complying just to comply. Even in the PHIRE, the app, there's a lot of people that are still traveling, and they're like, oh, well, I just wear a really thin mask. Well, you're still doing it. You're still, you're still engaging in that activity, and you need to find a way to not engage in that, because the more people that stop doing that and complying just because it's easier, that's where the problem is. That's where you're going to cause the change, is because so many people are seeing, oh, well, 95% of people are wearing masks, so almost everyone's in compliance. Well, no, we need to have more of those people that know that wearing the masks and know that doing this is all bogus and worthless, and it doesn't help. More people need to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do it. It's not right, and stand up for what's not right. And, just what you believe is what you should act.
I love that.
Act on that.
Act in integrity, right?
Because, go ahead.
No, I haven't traveled to certain places because of it, right? Because of this, and like more and more looking for options to travel that don't require me to go through a cattle prod herding line that I genuinely disagree with, right? But then it's a limitation of my unbounded potential, and I can't travel. So I'm like looking for alternatives. Okay, drive, boat, train, but like even planes and all of this is regulated by the government, right? It's not the planes that require you to get manhandled by the TSA. It's the airports. So it's a, like you said, it's a very complex thing. So it's really important that we can decentralize all of the things that we need, like power production, waste management, water production, food production. You and your husband, I think, are out in Idaho. Is that right?
Yeah, we're in the process of moving there. Yeah,
and so it's like, and then creating those vital centers that reproduce our cultural feeling of being in different places, and sense of like, oh, I want to travel. For me, I can't get around the fact though that I want to go to ancient sites and sit and meditate, and I want to be in those energy centers. And so it's like, okay, well, that's what I want more than what, I want that enough that I can change the way that I travel. And I agree with you. Like, it would be cool to have, Uber or PHIRE airlines, right? Fucking blimps. That's how I'd like to do it, and have like air yachts. And so and boats and things like this, and have them be part of the infrastructure of PHIRE. So like creating hubs all over the world, little communities, 20,000 people, whatever, and then have our own travel lines between those hubs. So wherever you go, there's this old medicine man. He's not old, but he's an old friend of mine, who he showed up to the United States, and I was there at the airport to greet him, and he was so happy, and he was like, I'm so glad you picked me up, because whenever you go to a new place, the first person to greet you is sort of the energy that you're going to have of that place, right? It's sort of like a fractal representation of the whole experience. And he was really thrilled about it. And it made me think, and I was like, wow, if we could have hubs and we had travel in between the hubs, then let's say you go from, hub in North Carolina to hub in, Egypt or France or something, then you land in a hub, you're there with people who are all moving in the same direction. It's sort of like you carry that energy, it welcomes you in, and then you grow from there. So that's a really cool insight that I'd like to take into, like, who knows, maybe we'll have pilotless, quadcopters that travel all over the place. That would be pretty epic. Solar powered quadcopters that charge themselves in the
that
air.
would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. And I have one more follow-up from last week. Jeffrey had mentioned Jack Cruz to you. Did you get a chance to look into him at all?
I haven't logged in on my phone. I haven't had the opportunity to actually deep dive.
Jeffrey's very disappointed.
I bet. Sorry, Jeff.
Well, we were just listening to a talk, and he started talking about human resonance and all this. So I just think you'd really you'd get a lot from some of his talks. So
I agree. Like, I'm all about that. Like, in today's baseline, I was basically like starting the process that I've been envisioning for a while of getting everybody to sort of get on the same wavelength. I've noticed in the past when bad things happen to one of our soul group, it kind of ripples throughout all of us. And there's a great deal of power in individuality and disconnectedness, but then there's also a great deal of power being connected and all vibrating at the same rate and collectively like sending energy where it needs to go and when. It's the power of prayer, right? It's like we used to pray for ourselves and our neighbors and our families before we went to bed each night, and I've started doing that again, just to be sending out that love energy, right? And I notice a difference in not just myself but others as well. So I'm betting Mr. Cruz is on that tip as well. Yeah, here it is.
He's very science. His thing is very science, light, sunlight energy driven. It's very like natural light is kind of the answer to health.
Yes.
You listen to him and he's very dense. I can mostly understand him. I'm a nurse, so I have a lot of medical background. So I understand a lot of what he's saying. But even me, I'm like, oh my God, rewind that. I can't understand what he's saying. So he is he's a neurosurgeon, very dense stuff, but his stuff does make sense. So it's just, I think you would really, I'm going to second Jeffrey's recommendation.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. Anything more I can add into my my quiver of ways of explaining things, the better. Thank you so much.
You're
Say
welcome.
hi to Jeff for me. Allison, you said your name wasn't Allison, but if you'd like to tell us your name again and chime in, you had something that you wanted to say.
I'm Allison. I put a T in there sometimes. It gives me a little bit more of an alien feel, and it makes people say the O. I never understood why people don't say O. They say in. So,
right.
And then I went with Allie for a little while because I liked ending on a high note. It's all about keeping things high. I've got so much thought going through me with everything that we're all talking about here right now. And quickly, I want to point out that Jack will help you acknowledge that Gulf, talking about meditating in good areas, that Gulf of Mexico is a profound body of water with high, solar energy coming out of it. Like, it's some of the best water on the planet. So the high vibrations coming out of that water. Going back to answer your question about what I think is going on is, I think we're already slaves. I think we're here as slaves. I think we were planted as slaves. And what are they trying to get from us? They're getting fuel from us. You look at who gets sacrificed in a volcano. Scared little girls, virgins.
Right.
Because they have a lot of fear because they're afraid.
Mm-hmm.
So you throw them in, and the electrical vibration you get out of that is pretty profound. So they're looking for power. And just a quick little story about myself. Years ago, I was in a very, very bad place, very abusive relationship. Was constantly on survival. Couldn't even see that I was in a bad place. And a friend of mine could see me very well, and he said to me one day, he said, "What do you want in life?" And I was stunned. I was like, I have no idea. I get to think about that.
Right.
Wow. And then like 4 years later, I was like, Dylan, I figured it out. I just want my power. And his response to me was, Allison, why do you already have it? Why do you think everyone's trying to take it?
Right.
And that was like a light bulb. Like, oh, So I think that's what they're doing. They're taking our power. And once you start to see what's going on, put the pieces together, you get to make decisions that go a different way. And then to just kind of go over into McDonald's for a moment, I had an old friend point out to me one day, not that I like McDonald's or like McDonald's hamburgers, but she had great intuition to say, wait a minute here, you got a cow full of burger, you got a field full of cows over there that are owned by McDonald's. And then you got a field over here that's owned by, you know, Jim, and he's a sustainable farmer, and those cows eat grass, right? And, you know, she kind of said, you know, that cow over there in the McDonald's field, he didn't ask to be owned by McDonald's. So how are you not honoring this cow? How it's the cow. The cow didn't choose its owner. So that was a nice, like, oh, reality check. Not that I'm going to go run and buy that burger, but at least respect it. And then it steps into, I see a lot of people interested in what they're consuming, and they only want to consume the healthiest product, of course. I'm not arguing that. But I found that what's more important is what comes out of our system into the world around us. So if I'm shaming that McDonald's hamburger, and that's where my focus is, that's what I'm putting out into the world, shame and disrespect.
It's like what Jesus, it's not what goes into your mouth, but what comes out of it that defiles you.
What comes out of it. And I used to say to my kids when they were little, like, actions speak louder than words. And, you know, and then I was like, oh my gosh, words are an action. Words are a very powerful action nonetheless.
Yeah.
So, you know, wait a minute, let's not fool ourselves. Let's speak clearly, understand that, you know, sarcasm is rooted in a word that means to cut flesh in Latin. Yeah. It's, you know, it's very confusing for children. It's confusing for me. It's very confusing when you're working on social media and texting. You can't see it.
Right.
So, you know, those are my food for thought on those things. And tying right into what you're consuming, I'm a diabetic. I'm type 1 diabetic. I was not always this way. That developed after severe stress. And I believe that there's a lot of shaming that goes on with diabetes. You're not eating the right thing, but my experience has told me that it's really the overeating or the poor eating is a stress response. So if you can go back and find healthy stress responses, then you're not putting yourself in a place where you are overeating and, you know, obesity and diabetes and whatnot. So it's not the food, it's your brain. It's
Let
what
me ask
you do
a
with your brain.
Thank you for sharing. It aroused in me a question that we've touched on a little bit already in the discussion, but do you find it personally, Alison, do you find it inhumane to farm and consume animals? Cows and,
you know,
like
I eat meat. I've been reducing the amount. Because I think there's an overconsumption of it. I don't think it's necessary for me to do as much as I have. And I think it's definitely abusive.
Yeah, I need meat. I went 8 years being a vegan, and I was underweight. I didn't have as much energy, all of this stuff, but like I thought I was fine. And then I ate meat, just not wanting to be disrespectful to the people who were feeding me, Hawaiian people, like the spiritual elders of Hawaii. And I ate cow for the first time in 8 years, and I was like, my tummy hurt obviously that night, but then the next day I was like, what is going on? Like it was like coming out of the desert to an oasis and being like needing water. And then I did research into blood types and blood, you know, and I'm O negative, and I needed meat. And like, if I were to eat to my genetics, it would be like Swiss, you know, meats, cheeses, and breads, and then Mediterranean and Brazilian. And so lots of veggies and oils and things like that. And so I went to eating that, and like super happy, body super healthy. I'm very picky about what meats I consume though, and what breads, where I get them, you know, and like, because the more I take part in the vicious factory farm cycle of consuming, the more I'm sort of at my soul level in complicity with how we're factory farmed. Like factory farming we've not ever considered it like evil up until the last decade or so. And, you know, like John Robbins and Ocean Robbins talking about becoming vegan. Like, that's why I became vegan, because of their work and just the humane aspect of it and wanting to honor all beings, right? And if I wasn't honoring those beings, then how could I look at our reptilian overlords and be like, respect me, motherfucker, you know? And not that they're really reptilian overlords or whatever. I'm just using that as like a fun, you know, thing that we do in the chat. But the idea is like, if we remove ourselves from that karmic cycle, like the Buddhists talk about, then, you know, we are not complicit in it as ourselves. But if our humanity was genetically created, and you look at things like corn, which was obviously genetically manufactured, bacon, bananas, and then pigs, like these are clearly genetically modified creatures from a long time ago. And so if we were created to be harvested, whether we call it loosh or our creative, you know, building and complex machinery and all of these technologies that we make, like whatever the purpose was, I tend to look at it as more benign, not as so much evil, right? But just as a natural cycle of life at higher and higher degrees of understanding. Like if Rick and Morty, there's this show called Rick and Morty, very disturbing show in a lot of different ways, but very funny in a lot of ways. And there's one episode where he has this battery that he uses to power his vehicle. And what he did was create an entire galaxy, basically, or world that by their life and their living, he creates energy, harnesses it, and powers his little vehicle with it. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were some higher order beings that, you know, seeded life here in all of its complexity and did so for a purpose, in the same way that we farm animals or chickens. Like, we got chickens and we get their eggs, you know? And in my mind, as unpleasant as it might be, and has been for me to even like grok that, it's been a huge step in my evolution and understanding and acceptance of reality and of life as it is, to accept that that's probably happening, could be happening. But just that acceptance of it allowed me to reframe the whole experience here on Earth, my life in it, and the society and all of these things, and say, you know, how, if that is the case, how can we have a better farm? You know, maybe its souls come here and it's part of their cosmic and karmic cycle to come and experience life and do all of the fun little things that we do, hurting each other, loving each other, all of this within a container of experience that is also serving some other greater purpose, right? I mean, that would just make sense in my mind. And how can we make that a better environment for everybody? I tend to think it's the humans that have fucked it all up, and that if it were left to itself, like, it could be a great garden, essentially, and the things that we're producing or whatever would generally happen. But I think that secret societies and places like that who get that knowledge or what's really going on, and then withhold it, consolidate power, like Tom was talking about, in their little yuntas of the top 10 bakers, you know, getting together and being like, how do we keep on top of the hill? Like, it's one big game of capture the hill, right? And King of the Hill. And I think it's their generations, as they've had more and more power consolidated, become more corrupt, think that they can get away with anything, and start exploring all the deepest, darkest possibilities of human life, and then it kind of slowly corrupts everybody else. And that was a lot of talking. I want to let you guys speak a little bit more, but that's sort of been my perspective on everything. It's like, how can we just have a better world together? And if it's dark, evil, you know, loosh that somebody's needing, well, let's fuck off with that, you know, and let's do the good stuff, and figure out how to own our own IP, essentially, right? Like, own our own planet, own our own civilization, take responsibility for it. If I'm a creator god, like each one of you, the more and more we discover that we have to do that in balance and with responsibility, the greater, you know, opportunities in the cosmos we would have, I should think. Right?
Yeah, I think we're on our way. In terms of a timeline, it's as far as I'm concerned, right here, right now. Yeah. So many people are waking up now, and we're all out there. We just don't have a way to communicate and solidify each one and like put you up on a pedestal and like support one another. It's like we're all
almost all scattered, and it's like the farmers coming through, the sheepdogs are running, and we're all like, where do we go? And it's like, we just need to all kind of collect, pause, be calm, breathe, and figure out where we want to go together,
Right. Exactly. Like mind control, like, stay the course. It's all right. It's going to be a lot of stuff flying around in the air, but you just stay within. It's like rather than putting each other up on the pedestal, I think it's putting ourselves up on the pedestal. And when you're up there, you're going to look around, you're going to see everybody else who can do the same thing. And that's where, there's a lot of power in that, and allowing you to be excellent to yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's really the best way to save other people. You can't run around saving them. The best thing you can do is show them how.
Yeah. Lead by example, right? Jack Spirko talks about that all the time.
Just do it. It's going to be hard enough to save ourselves in this. Do that. Yeah. And when you do, and as you have done, X, is you've created a force flow behind you. Of people are like, oh my God, look what he's doing, go follow that. And if the more that come along, this is like incredible that how many people just jumped up on PHIRE on, like, wow, like here we are, like.
Yeah, I'm super excited. It's been all my life I've been looking for my fellows, and then I decided to just stand up and be myself and say, come hell or high water, I had to overcome this deep-seated fear. Like, I remember lifetimes of being persecuted and for doing the right thing. And it's like, well, you know what? It doesn't matter, because no one gets out alive, and I know what it's like on the other side, and I'm cool with it. Let's roll, And so it's like, okay, let's do this, and let's see how much fun we can have in the process, So thank you, Alison.
Every step of the way. Every step of the way, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to. Thank you. Appreciate you. Daniel and Natasha. Daniel, you have something else to add? And then let's see if we can wrap this up and do our meditation.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know you want to do your meditation, so I'll try to be quick. I've noticed with the mask too, no matter where you go, half the people I talk to, like if I go to Walmart or something, I don't wear a mask. They try to offer it at the door. I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
But like you watch these people and like you're not following what they want you to do with the mask anyways. So why are you even wearing a mask? Like I'll see people that have it like under their chin. They're not even wearing it. Like they'll just hang it there. People are hanging it on their mirrors in the cars. It's like, so why are you using it? Why are you wearing a mask at all if you're not even going to follow it, your own orders? As far as the passports, I've noticed that I don't remember where I seen this. I had to put it on my phone so I remember to say it. But they don't want to make it like they're causing fear, which we know that. But they want to make it so it's almost impossible for you to think that you can go anywhere, so that you're like, well, screw it, I'm just going to get the vaccine then, so I'm good. But like,
I know people who've done that.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm like, what are you doing? Like my sister got it, and it was weird because I don't visit my sister very often, and since all this stuff began, like I couldn't even tell you the last time I got sick, but I would always get sick around her. I'm not saying she caused it, but it was just like the feeling like I didn't really want to be around to begin with people that got the vaccine. And it's just like, if it's, I didn't even get the stupid thing. If it's making me feel like crap just being here, like I don't even want to be around there. That's my sister and I love her to death. Yeah. But as far as that was the more of the fear-based stuff. Like, it seems like everything is based towards, they're trying to make you fear that that's what your future is going to be. And it's like, I'm manifesting my fucking future, so they can do whatever they want. Like, I don't care who's president. I don't care who walks up to my door. Like, good luck. As far as the farming stuff you were talking about, I think I saw this on Joe Rogan. They were talking about like how to make like a better way to farm. And it's like, for me, I had stopped eating meat. I think it was around about August of 2020. And it just came about. I kept thinking about why I kept getting like stomach aches and stuff, usually after eating something that had meat in it. And I was just like, screw it. I heard it. I don't want to say through a TikTok, but it might have been through a fucking TikTok. But they were like talking about how like, try to stop eating meat and see how you go. And I cried, but the first thing I ate was like a sheets thing, and I had meat on it and everything. And I was like, ah, damn it. So I took it all off and ate it without the meat. And I have not went back since. And I'm not going back. But I've noticed, like you were saying, how do you feed enough of the world meat and not run out? But at the same time, they're talking about like lab created meat where apparently it's bad for your liver. So it's like, where is the when you're farming, cropping, all that stuff, if you're using machinery, you're killing everything in the ground to dig up all the stuff that you planted. You're killing like the worms and whatever else lives in the ground and stuff like that. And they say like eventually that actually kills the whole area that you farm on. I don't know how true that is. I'm not a farmer. But it sort of makes
By
sense.
conventional means it does, but the more and more people getting to permaculture, it all comes back down to decentralization and making sure that each system is self-contained and that you're not just monocropping or mono grazing or any of this machine-based like sucking. You have to like actually be part of the cycle.
And they say it actually takes a while for the ground to not be able to grow anything on, but still, like, we're still slowly doing it. Like, that's what we've been doing our whole life, is slowly going towards what we're got going on now.
It goes back to the original thing. It's like getting people to change their ways. It costs them, it costs them energy, will force, time, all of this. So we have to incentivize, the right kind of behavior. It's a big old mess, right? Like, part of me is just like, man, fuck all this noise. I'd like just go get a monastery, go to a monastery and sweep floors and surf and like, let it come, whatever it is, But there's this part of me that's like, I want something better. I want to be better. I want a better experience, a more heavenly experience, and the only way I'm going to get that is by putting in the work. So that's where I'm rocking.
I think it's
Thanks,
more,
dude.
I think we just tried to make everything so much easier that we forgot like the after effect of making something easier. So it's like you really have to figure, like, if you're going to make something to help something with the future, what's the long-term effects? Because like I said, we're moving towards everything slowly. So
yeah. David just said, Rachel said, hugelkulture and permaculture is the way. And David said, killing the biodiversity of the soil. And they had a discussion with lifelong farmers on Saturday, and they're no longer tilling their land. Yes, big ag is just like, it's all of these like that worked in the 50s to feed everybody. And they didn't know what they were doing, but they were getting results and they didn't realize the long-term effects of it. But now here we are, like, it's kind of like kids who lived under a certain auspice and that their parents would just take care of them, and all of a sudden they have to hit the real world, and it's like all of this shit that they've been just taken for granted now needs to change. And that's kind of where we are as a species, in my opinion. Natasha, you'll be the last one, and then we'll get into unless anybody has something else that they feel very pressing, please put your hand up and then we'll get to you and then head over to the meditation.
Yeah, I'll try to make this fast as well. I wanted to touch up on what Ali said. Oh, sorry, Alison. So I wanted to speak about shaming. People just don't, I notice a lot of people don't realize that they do this. It seems to be, for a lot of people, their first mode of operation. Like, this is just how they operate. That's how they begin their sentences, everything, their percept everything. So I just wanted to touch up on that. People need to be aware that they're doing this, and the effect that this is causing. You're putting people down instead of lifting them up. You're destroying the goodness. That's, I just think that's a very important subject. And sarcasm is the same thing. As she said, the origin of the word is, basically the I forget, the stripping of the skin. It's just it's pretty severe. Like, sarcasm to me, because I'm always able to see through the bullshit whenever anybody speaks. I understand the energy behind anybody's words, sentences. Sarcasm is a way for somebody to be an asshole and then say, "Oh, I was just joking," every single fucking time. And it's very upsetting to me. And it seems like the world doesn't see it. And I just want to point it out. Stop it. I just want to point this out. Stop it, please. And the third thing I wanted to touch up on was what she said about sacrificing the virgin, and the energy that gets produced through this action. It doesn't even have to be the virgin, just it's anything. But so from my understanding, so to back it up a little bit, I have been, since I realized what's going on, again, 2020 is when I really technically was just like, oh shit, like, and what's going on. I started asking the question to myself, I don't understand what is like, is there really a Satan? Like basically, what all these like Satan is like doing, what are they praying to? What's going on there? And I obviously obsess over information, and I dig and dig until like I find something that resonates. Crap. Sorry guys. So what I came up with was, it is obvious to me that there is something again, it has to do with multi-dimensionality, something in maybe the fourth dimension or something. There are energies out there that are feeding of these really negative vibes, and they're giving basically whatever it is that the people that are doing the rituals, they are giving in return what they're asking for. So there's something to that. Like there's some kind of veil that's lifted between that world and our world, where like the bad humans that are doing the ritual, that energy of extreme fear somehow separates the veil, and the energy is being eaten, and therefore what those people want comes true. If I'm making sense, I hope I'm making sense. So I just wanted to bring forward something I finally came up with, because it was a really pressing question for me. What the fuck is Satanism? What do you mean Satan? Like I don't understand that, because to me, God is everything, right? So like I'm like, it's the universe. So I'm like, so there is no man in the sky. So why would there be a Satan? I don't know. It was just something that was really pressing, something I thought about, something I researched. I just wanted to kind of bring that forth as something to think about.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks. I know that there are forces that we would consider evil, but I often think like how like a good farmer or a good baker who's got a big company and is sweet with their family, but you're the one eating their shitty food, or the cow, does the cow in the farm think of the farmer as evil? It's a big mystery in a lot of ways.
Yeah, for sure.
I like knowing that those forces exist, but also to have deep empathy for everything and deep love for everything, I think is the goal for me.
Yes.
And so to understand all those forces so that I can have that empathy, but
Yes.
also, take no shit, and hold boundaries on what's good. So thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I just thought popped up. Yeah, this whole Epstein's Island thing. They did a lot of those rituals there. I think there was some kind of like lifting of the veil, like all the horrible things that they did there. There's there was something going on. Whatever it is.
I mean, humans have been horrible throughout history. I mean, as beautiful as we've been, we've also been horrible. So,
but I think I actually don't have that view that it's even though we are fucked up. Yes, I completely agree, 100%. I see humans, they're fucked up. But I do say it's not, even though it is their responsibility, I also do say it's not their fault. They are influenced from the time they are in their mother's belly. Some people are prone to hypnosis, to being brainwashed. Some people are not. I'm not prone, so I see everything, and it's fucking annoying as fuck. I love it and hate it at the same time, but I love it more because I rather see than not see.
Yeah. And again, I think after everything, we all get together and have a beer in heaven and laugh about all the things that have happened.
Absolutely.
It's like, while we're here, it seems so important, but the less serious we take it, the more light we are. The reason why angels can fly is because they take themselves lightly. And I think we'll end on that note.
Yes, please.
Unless anybody has something super pressing that they wanted to express, we'll get into the meditation. All right. So if you could find yourself in a comfortable seated position or laying down, whichever you prefer, we'll begin the process of increasing our density and the wellspring of power that we dwell from and that we pull from in manifesting our daily lives and the desires of ourselves and that which we believe the desires of the species and the planet itself are asking for. greater coherence, more balance, more integrity, more honesty. And the way we'll begin is we will imagine a ray of light coming and filling our vessels, our bodies, with light and healing and gnosis and relaxation. And then we'll do a couple of breathing exercises, which is we'll inhale, drawing the energy from the earth up through our spine in a tornado, clearing out our energy centers, creating greater coherence and electrical charge in our bodies. We'll hold it, paying attention to the stillness and the atoms and the general underlying frequency of the world that we are in. And then exhaling and releasing that as a spiraling water fountain of light energy, spiraling down our etheric or aura field, creating greater coherence, not just in our body form, but also in the air molecules around us, increasing the capacitor charge or ability for us to channel that life force energy, strengthening us, making us brighter. And then we'll do that 4 times. Inhale, pause, exhale, pause, inhale, pause. And then we'll do a visualization, increasing our density or our perspective, going through the magnifications of reality, returning back to our bodies with a greater degree of coherence and a greater degree of data and information, and reminding ourselves the infinite power that we possess within each one of our cells. So find yourself in a seated, comfortable position or laying down, whichever you prefer. Breathe comfortably and release yourself from all of the tension, stress, and concerns that you've had of the past week, or those things that you feel are pressing upon you now. And as we go through the process of this relaxation, by the end of it, we'll have visualized all of those stresses becoming real things that you are sitting upon. A pool of melted oil, a pool of melted coconut oil. And we'll begin this with a stream of light, of golden light, conscious, living, aware light that will bathe you from the top down. And imagine this rose gold light shining down upon your crown and shoulders. Imagine any of the stress that you've had just melting away, as if you were sitting in a sauna, and the sweat melting down your back to a pool beneath you is all of the stress and concerns that you have had. And imagine this rose gold light, as it bathes you, also enters through your crown, warming, releasing, relaxing your skull, your brain, enveloping your brain and your third eye inside the vessel of your being. And as the rose gold light continues down, covers your eyes and your ears, releasing all tension from your jaw and your teeth, releasing all tension from your skull and your brain and your mind, your eyes. And as the rose gold light continues down through your neck, relaxing your throat, relaxing the energy center there, opening up those 3 channels from the crown to your third eye to your throat. And as that tension releases and the rose gold light continues down over your shoulders, through your clavicle, trapezius muscles, or your deltoids, over your pecs and over your biceps, coming to your heart, releasing any grief that you might be holding in your lungs, allowing that energy center to open in gratitude for this moment, for your life, for all of your journey, from childhood, the lessons in school, the lessons in early adulthood and in your teenage years, the adventures, all of the experiences, and effortless gratitude and appreciation. And as that rose gold light continues down into your solar plexus and covering your biceps, opening up that third energy center in your solar plexus, releasing tension and rooted in your ideology of yourself, the expression of your being, the expression of your truth. Grounded and rooted in the I am. And as that rose gold light continues down into your belly and your elbows, that center of creativity opens. Desire, attraction, Kundalini energy, money, opens and relaxes in accordance with the other centers in your body, creating a highway, a super highway of energy, and electric, bioelectric energy, and data. And that rose gold energy fills your upper body, and all of the stress and tension melting off of you like warm coconut oil into a puddle beneath you. And as that rose gold energy comes down into your pelvis, your root chakra, your legs, thighs, and knees, you are safe. You have a family, soul family of beings, family on earth, of which you are an integral piece of the song, their lives. And as the rose gold energy fills up your being to your knees and your calves and your ankles and your toes, this conscious light of warmth and radiant consciousness fills you from head to toe, from the skin into the center of your bones. Coherent, warm, conscious, alive. The electrical energy in your body is vibrant. Feel the cells and the atoms that hold these cells together, and the charge between them, the space between the notes that defines the song, the stillness, the peace. That space in between the atoms is the space where the universe dwells, the life force of your being, the intelligent structure of your being. In stillness and immense power. In gratitude for the ancestors that have come before you, reaching back to the dawn of creation and the Big Bang, the infinite indwelling spirit of creation, the ever-present I am, the ever-present observer, animating our forms, inspiring us with life, expressing itself through all of our ancestors, all who have led their lives in passion and striving, overcoming challenges, reaching forward through time to bring you here now, an expression of the ever unfolding consciousness of creation. We will begin the breathing exercise. We will inhale, drawing the energy up as a spiral from the earth through our spine to the top of our crown, and hold it, increasing the electrical capacity of our being, and exhale, spiraling that energy out, structuring the atoms in the air around us, and hold it. Increasing our awareness, inhaling, drawing that spiral tornado energy of the earth up through the top of our crown, and hold it. Increasing our awareness, exhale, spiraling that energy out, creating greater coherence in our field, and hold it. Inhale, drawing the energy in from the earth, increasing the capacity of our cells, and hold it. In stillness, exhale, increasing the capacity of our being, the greater field of our aura, and hold it. Inhale, drawing the energy in, lighting up the vessel, and hold it. Increasing the awareness and coherence of our atoms. Exhale, and hold it. Floating in the sea of the infinite song. Inhale, and hold it. Floating in the notes of creation. Exhale, increase coherence, and hold it. Inhale, drawing the energy in from the universal flow, and hold it. Floating in the sea of divine consciousness. Exhale, give thanks, and hold it. Please breathe normally in a relaxed manner, floating here in the sea of atoms, beyond the touch of gravity, beyond the effects of negativity, beyond the effects of electromagnetic forces and impulses, bathed in the molecular atoms of the sun's dreaming, the sun's longing for itself, floating in a sea of light, made up of the light, structured into a song comprised of the DNA of all of our ancestors, each of them a full song in the symphony of creation, distilled into a note making up the song of you. Various lines of various explorations of consciousness and life, indwelling within you to create a vessel for exploration and understanding and play. Become aware of the molecules of your body being held together by these songs of your ancestors, the song of your own being, of intention and of gnosis. Become aware of the fact that you are comprised of billions of cells, each one full of life, teeming with endless possibilities, drawing upon the very source of creation, out of time, in the ever-present now. Each cell an entire universe of infinite experiences and possibilities. Become aware of the air around you and the molecules floating around you. Imagine their greater coherence aligning themselves to your electromagnetic field, your thoughts, your dreams, your strivings, expressed from the inward universes within each cell, through the veil of your knowing, the veil of your experiencing. The very power of the universe expressing itself through you, and now the air around you, increasing your capacitation, increasing the amount of electricity that flows through you, structuring the world around you, creating, manifesting, storing the information and experiences that you seek. Become aware of the room around you and all of the molecules that are holding the walls together, the echoes of your experiences and emotions, leaving tracks on the framework of those atoms and molecules in the same way that tracks are left in the sand at the beach. All of your emotional experiences and memories in this place, holding you, comforting you, expressing you, reflecting you. Become the space around you. Become aware of the molecular structure of the air in the room, the memories that have been there, the feelings that have been there, the comforting that it has provided you in safety. Increase your size and magnification until you are aware of the entirety of the building that you are within, whether it is an apartment or a home or a cabin. Float up and through it, taking in all of the atoms and all of the configurations of all of the molecules and beings therein. Echoes, reflections of your own life force, affected by you, a sea of information, sea of structure and of sound, of light and gnosis. Increase your size and magnification until you're aware of the town or the city or the woods around you, full of life forms, organized and orchestrated molecular structures dancing in the sea of infinite sound and light, expressing specific ideas, expressing specific adventures, specific songs, floating together in the symphony of creation. Become aware of the town and all of the life forms around you, the song within which you dwell. Imagine the harmony and healing and wellness of this community, the upliftment and balance and lighting up of the understanding of creation. We increase our size and magnification until you are floating above the state or the county. All of the life forms there, the winged ones, the four-legged ones, the fish, the insects, the two-legged ones, the plants and the air spirits, the waters, all structured molecules and atoms expressing ideas and forms, adventures and songs, a great symphony within which you exist and are expressed, connected by the indwelling spirit that moves through all things, love's longing for itself. Increase your size and magnification until you are floating above the nation, with its own song and its own story, of which you are a part, interwoven, effectual, and integrated. Its own story of experience, challenges, and strivings. Increase your size and magnification until you are floating above the earth itself, with your gnosis and comprehension comprising the entirety of the sphere, all of the life forms, all of the various stratifications of comprehension, collected organization of molecules, a shimmering sea of gnosis, of experience, a symphony within the symphony, comprised of many varied and beautiful life forms, expressing, experiencing, and exploring. A symphony of which your song, your note is a part, able to be moved by you, able to be affected by you, able to be unfolded by you. And as we are floating here above the atmosphere of the earth, become aware of your fellows here, each one of us on this call, in this meditation, each comprising an ancient lineage of ancient understanding and gnosis, innocent in its striving, innocent in our exploring, in a good way, sharing love and appreciation for the symphony of which we find ourselves. So too are the angelic beings and guardians here, overseeing the earth, its development and the consciousness of life, the song of this system expressed in the human civilization. In the process of healing, in the process of greater degrees of understanding, comprehension, and coherence. And bathe this life force down to the earth below as a web of light connects each one of us to each one of us. Coherence, coherence, a synchronization of souls and of hearts and of minds and of strivings, a beautiful vision of the earth and the human civilization that souls may come to learn and grow, understand themselves as the greater part of the greater symphony of creation, in freedom and in balance, in accordance with the grand symphony and the central suns and the central infinite unbounded creator. As we increase our size and magnification, we become aware of the moon and its history, its structure, the atoms that collect together to form the idea of it, expressing itself in this star system, overseeing, balancing these systems in spin, reflecting the light of the great central sun, the soul of the system. As we become greater in magnification, become aware of each of the spheres in this solar system, each one a planet full of trillions of atoms, structured molecules expressing various forms of gnosis and of understanding, comprehensions beyond our own, comprised of histories of billions of years, life forms, stagnations, notes, measures, all spinning together around the central soul, who bathes all of these spheres in its own atoms, creating itself a mirror to understand itself, an exploration of time and space, comprised of billions of souls, birthing and dying, cycles of spin, songs that ebb and flow throughout creation, frequencies and cycles, infinite stories with infinite histories, and variations upon variations. A central star comprised of many souls and many fractions, many sparks and many fragments of the same infinite creator, collected in a song of creation. Increase your size and magnification until the solar system becomes just a pinprick of light, floating in a sea of pinpricks of light. Other solar systems, other expressions, configurations of molecules and atoms, dwelling places of light and consciousness within a sea of emptiness. Each solar system, a full symphony of its own, comprised of infinite amount of atoms, an infinite amount of configurations, with infinite amount of life forms and various ways of consciousness at various stratum of understanding. Increase your size and magnification until those seas of infinite pinpricks of light coalesce, and you are floating above the spiraling Milky Way galaxy, itself a grand symphony of infinite stars with infinite histories, trillions of atoms, molecular structures organizing themselves in multitudes of ways, experiencing life, exploring life, being life, with consciousness at every stratum of understanding and being. Gases and rocks, waters, plasmas, bipedal, multipedal creatures, sentient light, infinite possibilities, structured in infinite houses, infinite notes in the grand symphony of creation. As we increase our size and magnification, we recognize that there are other pinpricks of light that are also galaxies like our own, each comprised of multitudes of forms, some greater, some lesser, all adding to the symphony of creation, of which you are integral and a part. And as we increase our size and magnification, all of those galaxies coalesce into one pinprick of light. And you find yourself inside of an atom, full of energy and multitudes of universal understanding and potential. And as you increase your size, you recognize that there are other pinpricks of light, that they too are atoms, held together by intention, by frequency, by gnosis, by the yearning and longing for oneself, understanding and love. And those atoms, they themselves are held together in formations creating molecules. Molecules comprised of atoms, comprised of universes. As you increase, you recognize that those molecules come together to form cells. And those cells are within your being, collecting, creating organs, creating proteins, creating DNA, creating your vessel, comprised of billions of universes, of infinite possibilities, unbounded potential and power emanating from life's longing for itself, life's longing for expression, more powerful than any life force on the planet, any electrical manufacturing facility. You are comprised of the infinite powers of infinite central suns, spiraling, expressing, generating atoms within which to dwell, dwelling here within atoms that were created from the central sun of soul. Soul expressing itself as you, the infinite creator expressing itself as you, a divine being of understanding and gnosis, peace, of balance, of striving, of innocence and goodness, harmony and stillness, overcoming all of those things that have held you back as ideas, any urges that are uncontrolled become now completely comprehensible as you become super conscious of the infinite worlds within and the infinite potential without. Exploring the universe in this place that you call here and now. Beautiful note, beautiful song in the grand symphony of creation. Aho.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Thank you. Crystal Jenkins says, this is my first time here. It's been great. Thanks, everyone. I'm looking forward to adding my voice next time. Always to have a sense of humor because beneficial things can come with difficulty. Yeah. If anybody would like to share their experience of the meditation or anything that they felt, please feel free to at this time. Thanks, Natasha. All right. I feel great. Well, unless anybody has anything else to say, I'm going to switch off the live. Thank you very much. Thanks. Very grateful